Case Study, ASEAN. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN for short, was founded on August 8, 1967 in Bangkok, Thailand, by 5 countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Since then, ASEAN has accepted 5 additional members. Brunei joined in 1984, Vietnam in 1995, Laos and Burma in 1997, and Cambodia in 1999. ASEAN now represents 10 member countries and a population of 636 million in 2014, with a total area of 2.7 million square miles and a combined GDP in terms of purchasing power parity of $3.8 trillion in 2013. The ASEAN Declaration, signed in Bangkok in 1967, states in part, "The association represents the collective will of the nations to bind themselves together in friendship and cooperation, and, through joint efforts and sacrifices, secure for their peoples and for posterity the blessings of peace, freedom, and prosperity." The primary objectives of ASEAN include 2 areas: economic cooperation to boost regional integration, and political cooperation to promote peace and stability in that area. In this case study, you'll learn about the importance of ASEAN, trade in ASEAN, its external relationships, and its future trends. The political and security dialogue and cooperation among ASEAN countries have helped to enhance regional resilience. For various reasons, there are still a few territorial disputes among member countries. However, ASEAN's security mechanism eliminates any potential armed confrontation since its establishment, and thus creates a favorable political environment for conducting international business. Another important element of ASEAN lies in its efforts to integrate regional economies. ASEAN has made major efforts to forge closer economic ties within the region. In a recent vision statement, ASEAN stated that one of its aims is to create an economic region where there is a free flow of goods, services, investments, capital, equitable economic development, reduced poverty, and socioeconomic disparities. Furthermore, regional economic integration is being promoted by the development of trans-ASEAN transportation and telecommunication and energy networks. Today, ASEAN economic cooperation covers many areas, such as trade, investment, industry, services, finance, agriculture, forestry, energy, transportation, communication, intellectual property, small and medium enterprises, and tourism. The regional integration promoted by ASEAN also helps to build competitiveness for the members as a unified economic unit, so that ASEAN can compete with other major trade networks such as the European Union, NAFTA, Japan, and China. When ASEAN was created, the trade among member countries was not significant. It is estimated that before the 1970s, the share of intra-ASEAN trade was below 15% of total trade among member countries. Therefore, ASEAN countries signed a series of agreements to promote trade among member countries. One of the most important agreements is the ASEAN Free Trade Area, which was launched for the first time in 1992 to promote greater economic efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness by eliminating tariffs and non-tariff barriers. This objective has now been virtually realized. As a part of the Common Effective Preferential Tariff Scheme, more than 99% of the products in the original 6 AFTA countries have been brought down to the 0 to 5% tariff range. The CLMV countries have until 2015 to meet this requirement. ASEAN's vision forwards its importance as having a pivotal role in the international community. Major efforts cover cooperation with Asia-Pacific countries, South Asian countries, and intergovernmental organizations. One of the most important cooperative efforts is the annual dialogue among the leaders of ASEAN, China, Japan, and South Korea. In 1999, the leaders of ASEAN, China, Japan, and South Korea issued a joint statement on East Asia cooperation, outlining the major cooperation areas. One of the partners, Japan, is the main source of economic aid for Southeast Asian countries. China and South Korea have gradually increased their trade relationships with ASEAN countries. ASEAN's closest neighbors and major emerging markets, China and India, both have a very strong willingness to promote their economic ties with ASEAN countries. As part of the cooperation plan, ASEAN plans to further its economic ties with both countries. Projects under consideration include the building of 2 railway systems, connected to India and to China respectively. If this ambitious plan is successful, then ASEAN will improve its strategic importance as the intermediary between the two largest emerging economies. Other ASEAN dialogue partners include Australia, Canada, the European Union, New Zealand, Russia, the United States, and the United Nations Development Program. ASEAN countries also participate actively in the activities of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, the Asia-Europe Meeting, and the East Asia-Latin America Forum. Given its diverse political and economic situations, and different cultural and social backgrounds, the achievement of ASEAN's regionalization over the past 4 decades is quite impressive. Despite the unfavorable conditions that exist, the countries of Southeast Asia now comprise one of the most stable and prosperous regions in the developing world. ASEAN's strength lies in the unity not only among governments, but also among its diverse peoples. ASEAN will move towards greater economic integration, emphasizing sustainable and equitable growth among its members. Furthermore, as regional economic ties with East Asia and South Asia were strengthened, we will see greater economic cooperation between ASEAN and other Asian countries. Without a doubt, ASEAN will continue to grow to become a more integrated market. In the face of increasing competition from China and India, ASEAN members will have to act more like a single organization in order to safeguard the organization's interests. However, ASEAN faces complicated diversity issues, leading to questions of whether ASEAN will be able to act as a group. Nevertheless, ASEAN will remain a strong economic force because it is the only organization where Southeast Asian countries cooperate to compete against other economic powers in the world. What will be the advantages and disadvantages of closer economic ties between ASEAN, India, and China? How does diversity affect economic integration? How likely is it that the goal of ASEAN to integrate its economies will be successful?